I had this encounter a couple months ago that I can't get out of my head. So I'm standing in my front yard and I suddenly see the neighbor kid, who's about 8, go sprinting after his new 6-month-old husky puppy. I quickly figured out, because I saw in this chaotic moment an older woman shouting out the front door, that our neighbor's housekeeper had arrived and accidentally let the puppy get loose. And down the block the dog went, and so did the little kid, straight toward the busy road, really not that far from our house. I didn't know what to do, so I jumped in my car and I headed that way, not wanting the kid or the dog to get hurt. And I take off in the direction of the busy road where the kid and the dog are running. By the way, this is not a story about me saving the day or anything. Far from it. Sure enough, I get to the busy road just as the dog bolts across it, kid following. Super scary moment. I pull my car up. Another person had pulled over to help out too. The dog darts back and forth on the side of the road, and we get the kid to stop chasing it. Then the dog speeds back out into traffic the other direction. I step out into the road to slow down a guy in an oncoming Tesla. The dog runs back into our neighborhood, the kid sprinting safely behind him, eventually making it back home with the dog. Anyway, the guy then in the Tesla lowers his window to shout at me. And the other lady had already gotten in her car to take off. And the guy in the Tesla goes, "Keep your blanking dog under control." Plus, he used some other choice words and names for me, and then he speeds off. I shouted back my own creative mix of spirited language and impractical recommendations for where he might shove things. Anyway, I keep thinking about this guy. I'm still pretty enraged when I think about him, to be honest. It wasn't my dog. I was just trying to help. I didn't really do anything to you. Like, what a jerk, right? But I'm trying to wonder about him, how he felt, how he was probably scared, how he was probably already stressed from his day at work and his commute home, how he was probably viscerally responding to a moment that was out of his control. I want to feel empathy. I want to acknowledge that feeling of being out of control and how feeling out of control is a horrible feeling. I have moments when I'm able to open my heart that way, but mostly I just feel angry at this dude. Not to be overly dramatic, but this feels like a metaphor for politics and today's society. When things we care about are in danger, our visceral emotions flare up. Our primal feelings show up right alongside our panicked efforts to help. We end up yelling angrily at each other and seeing each other as the enemy. But I got to remember, that guy, he stopped his car. That guy, despite his yelling, hated what harm could have befallen that dog. That guy, even though he expressed it in a way that nearly made things worse, was just feeling scared that something bad might happen to the little dog or to the little boy. He wanted the situation to be prevented in the future. He wasn't my enemy. I don't think I was his either. Anyway, the dog and the kid were fine. It was just a really weird 5-minute moment in my day that kind of came out of nowhere, and then I can't get out of my head. Every once in a while, I dabble in some non-canonical ancient texts. It's so cool how we all have access to like all of written history in the world and at the touch of a button on our phones or on our computers. Anyway, I was recently paging through this old Jewish text known as the Book of Sirach. There's this line in there that reads, "Can one refuse mercy to a sinner like oneself, yet seek pardon for one's own sins? If I am imperfect, I must forgive the imperfectness of others as fast as possible. And I am certainly imperfect." Here's a short blessing for your week. May you know mercy and forgiveness and dole it out graciously. May you see the deepest desires of the broken people around you. May you believe in the best that lies beneath their worst. And may you respond with tender love and delicious grace as often as possible. Remember, Between is about you. Take this message out into your life this week and transform the world around you by filling the space between you and every person you encounter with God's love. My favorite church is the space between people. Now go with God's love and create the church between.